Okay, it looks like we're all good here. Also, guys, let me know if you can hear us and see us okay. But it's nice to have you guys here. And this has been a chat I've been excited for such a long time. And if you guys can refer to a video I posted a little while ago about my own mental health story and kind of what got me started with being able to talk about my mental health so openly on this channel was because of this guy right here, Marc Mero, former Intercontinental Champion, world man, Marc Mero, and also in WCW as Johnny B. Bad. So, Marc, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to join me today.
Oh, Jack, it's a pleasure, man. It's so good to see you healthy and happy, man. It's just awesome.
Yeah, no, we've spoken back and forth like over the years. And so I think it was around 2019 or 2018. I think I sent you a DM on Instagram, I think,
Yes.
around that time.
Yes.
Yeah, and we've spoken back and forth ever since that time. And I just wanted to just refer back to that one video, which really got me kind of going into doing something relating to my own mental health, my own anxiety disorder, as well as my depression. And what really got me started was a old presentation which you did at River Run Church. Do you remember that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, so I remember exactly where I was, what I was doing at that time. I remember I was at work and managed to just catch this because I knew of you obviously through professional wrestling, as I've been a wrestling fan my entire life. So obviously I knew who Johnny B. Bad was, and I knew who Wild Man Marc Mero was. And I never knew what you were doing up until that time when I actually started going on to what are these presentations. So I managed to check one out, and it was the River Run Church. And honestly, man, I just gotta say, it brought me to tears. I probably cried right the way through the thing when I was watching it at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Well, Jack, just getting to know you, you got a beautiful heart, and I got to tell you, I really commend you that you've been able to be open and honest about your own journey, your battle that you've experienced in life. And man, through our struggles, we find our strength, and you have found a strength to help other people. And exactly the same thing with me is that there's no greater joy than helping another person. I mean, in life, you really find that you find this joy, this happiness when you're able to help other people, and you being honest and open has made a difference.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Mark. Thank you so much. It's taken a lot of time to actually talk about mental health and so on, just because now it's a lot more understood, it's a lot more talked about among our communities, and especially among schools now, which I'm glad, which it was never really spoken about even when I was at school, which was only around 10, 11 years ago. It was never spoken about. But now, obviously, since there's so much resources, especially here in the UK, where you can reach out to people. There's various groups around. There's obviously the NHS, which is the healthcare system which we have here, but there's still so much that needs to be which seems to be understood about mental health. And obviously, among this pandemic and so on, which has been happening all around the world, has affected all of us. And I can't think of anybody it hasn't affected. But I feel, especially. Do you feel, obviously, you've been, I assume you probably get messages from a lot of people, even adults, even kids, from when you do your presentations and so on. And do you feel that maybe this pandemic has had an effect, especially on younger kids around this time?
Well, Jack, you touched on something that's very important. There's been such a stigma on mental health for so long. And it's finally to the point where people are starting to open up and be able to talk about it. And social media has been a real blessing in some areas that we've been able to, reach a lot of people. But yes, I received probably at least 100 messages a week of people that are struggling through some type of mental health, whether it's depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts, addiction, whatever it may be that they're suffering from. And it's very difficult, but it's trying to find resources that can help people. There's only so much that you can do personally. Obviously I can't be on the phone or computer all day long, but that's what it leads to. And it's so hard because not everybody has resources to afford a mental health specialist. And, the one thing I'm seeing, Jack, and you remember in school, we may have counselors that can help us choose classes or what college to go to, or maybe, help us with bullying or something. But we don't have mental health specialists at most schools, or they may have one for a whole district, which is thousands of kids. And it's just we don't have enough resource or help And I think that, as we talk about this more, we're going to be able to provide more, get people more involved in this, and understand that we've got to do something, or we're heading the wrong direction.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it has been especially like difficult around this time, but now, like you said, there's so much out there, and even with people being on social media, and even I've wanted to, I can only speak from my own personal experience, but then again, it's the point of I can maybe benefit one person, there's still one person that's benefited from me talking about my own personal struggles, my own personal stories. Even if it just helps one person, that's a job well done. But you get the opportunity to talk to so many kids, and you've been doing it for years, and even parents as well. Like, is it more sort of the kids, which I assume is probably the kids, which probably look up to you a lot more and reach out to you? But is there also maybe parents as well and families that reach out to you as well?
Absolutely, Jack. This is going on September will be my 15th year, starting my 15th year presenting at schools, churches, corporations all over the world. We've even been to Russia, and 2 years ago we were in Guatemala. And we've been averaging about 230 events a year up until the pandemic came. And of course, we can only do virtual now until, schools open up again and places open up where we can go and do live presentations. But we get, obviously, because my main audience is middle school, high school, and colleges, we're getting many from students. But, many parents have reached out to me also. My peers have reached out to me with issues that they're going through, and especially the pandemic, this isolation, the loneliness, the despair, the hopelessness that many are feeling through this, But, this is where we've got to be the light in this darkness. We've got to show that there is light at the end of the tunnel and bring hope to people. I mean, our minds are so powerful, Jack. I wake up, I hit the ground running, I really do every morning. I'm up very early, and I'm really just thankful for another day of life. And I think, I could sit there and think about all the negative things in my life, bills that are due, or that's happening, or despair, or people that are going through. You don't realize how much pain you take on dealing with a lot of people that are going through pain. And I could constantly be, thinking about that, or I could also think of the positive side of it, of maybe the people that we're helping, the good things that are happening. The sun is shining today, whatever it may be. We have to look at positive things.
Yeah, for sure. But obviously, we're gonna have our stumbles in life, and some of us more than others. We have our stumbles, but obviously, it's just a case of not giving up, which is obviously easier said than done. And we've all have our own personal stories to tell, but I mean, man, like the whole time you've been on this earth has been, well, one heck of a life, one heck of a career, like so much that you've done, especially from going to boxing to professional wrestling and to where you are at now. I mean, that's one heck of a journey, but it didn't always start out like that. Like, life was a bit of a struggle for you at first, wasn't it?
It was, Jack. And I think that's why it's so cool that I can relate to so many people. I grew up in one of the worst drug and gang infested neighborhoods in New York, on the west side of Buffalo, New York. And, being beat up a lot when I was a kid. My mom worked 2 jobs. She bought much of our clothes, like at garage sales and so on. And so it was very embarrassing, going to school, and kids would mock you and call you a bum and things like that. But, I tell you, at the end of the day, when that bell rang, I mean, I'd run home from school and bullying stopped. Now, fast forward, to 2021, where we have social media, we have the internet, where kids can be bullied 24/7, and then we see the gang mentality of picking on a student or a group of kids and just attacking them, nonstop, no matter where they go, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, whatever it is, they just get constantly being attacked.
Yeah, it kind of relates back to, well, a little bit in my case, when obviously when we're young kids, we go through phases and so on. Whereas I had a phase of having, I had a big mohawk. I used to wear nail polish and the eyeliner. I was going through the gothic stage and so on. But we all go through phases when we're younger. And especially, I remember kind of having the same kind of deal, running back home from school. Remember one time I got dragged into an alleyway, had my ribs kicked in and my face. But luckily, I was wearing a lot of makeup, so that managed to cover it up. But at the time, especially when I was at school, only around that time, in around 2007, 2008, even up until the point from 2012, I didn't really have, there wasn't really much for me in terms of just counseling, being able to speak to somebody or even teachers. But then again, sometimes it's easy for a lot of kids to internalize their pain, which I definitely did. I didn't speak about it till I was in my 20s. I never spoke about any of it. But now, especially with like what you said with technology, kids are being able to be cyberbullied all the time, 24/7. It never goes away. There was a few years ago at the same school I went to, this one girl being pretty much tortured online for a long while, and I think it was after she just turned 14 where she ended up taking her own life, which is just, it just shows the damage which it can do to young kids, and it's just horrifying.
Jack, we never know what someone else is going through in their life. That person you're picking on, maybe their parents are going through a divorce. Maybe they lost a loved one, or they had to put their pet down. You don't know what they may be going through. And then when you call them stupid, ugly, and worthless, and they just feel like they don't care anymore, But Jack, you said something that was really important. You said about how you held things in for so long. And that's one of the things we do with our program is we get kids to open up and be able to talk about it and make them realize they're not alone. It's okay to talk about it, and with you sharing your story now, it gets other people to open up and say, if he can talk about it and see his life change and be better, because, in life, I really found, we always search for happiness. It's like it's this destination, and happiness comes and goes, Jack, through life. You have good days, you have bad days, but I found something even more important than happiness. It's being content. All the choices I made in my life, all the paths I took ended up to right where I am today. And I couldn't be more content in my life. And that's the way you deal with things in life is we often take for granted the very things in life we should appreciate. Many times it's the love of our parents or siblings or friends or people that we may have hurt in our life. And you have to have forgiveness. And sometimes, Jack, the hardest person to forgive is ourselves. And when you do that, man, you lift a weight off your shoulder. We all make mistakes. We all go through trials and tribulations in life. But when you're able to forgive yourself, you're able to move on in life.
Yeah, that is, I couldn't have said it any better myself. Like I said, I didn't speak about any of this till around, this year pretty much. And then, because maybe you guys watching this in the future, what you don't know is that video which I posted, which was like a 40-minute long video talking about my whole mental health story, all the way from when I was younger right up to now. I probably deleted that video about a good 6 or 7 times before I actually had the confidence to actually put it up out there. But often it is I can understand a lot of people may feel, I definitely felt ashamed because maybe if it's like, especially with kids, when I have 2 young nephews now. I have one who's like very little, and I have one who's growing up, becoming a man now. But even after having conversations with them, and even I used to work at a school as well, when even kids would like tell me whenever they would want to talk to me about their bullying issues or whatever, that a lot of the time they feel like there's something wrong with them. That if you're being told that you're stupid often enough, you often start to believe it. Yeah. And do you feel like that's the problem? That's another problem as well with these kids in these schools that you talk to?
Well, perception is reality. What you perceive is what you're going to believe. And when you hear you're ugly, you're stupid, you're worthless enough times, and sometimes it even comes from our own family members, which is horrible. And you start believing that those lies, and it's getting students to believe in themselves. A lot of times when I go and do a positive presentation, you see a lot of kids are all pumped up because they felt empowered. But the most beautiful thing is when they start believing them in themselves and watching that transition, where they start believing themselves, setting goals and dreams, and believing they can achieve these goals, these dreams that they set before them.
Yeah, for sure. And especially, I really admire what you do, and the fact that you've done it for so long. I mean, like you said, you're averaging like maybe 250 plus days a year. Obviously, before the pandemic, pretty much. Well, nearly going back to the life of a professional wrestler on the road, really, isn't it?
It's funny you said that, Jack, because, I wrestled for 14 years, and you think about, for 14 years doing 200-something shows or cities a year, and then going into speaking for 14 years. I mean, I'm talking about almost 30 years of my life I've lived out of a hotel room. So it's so crazy that, you know, who would ever think the pandemic would be kind of be a blessing in my life, where I was able to sell my house in Florida and move to Georgia near my brother Joel. We've always wanted to spend more time together. You know, it was like one of those things that seemed so far off, you know, and now it became a reality. I live by him. We spend a lot of time together. So I couldn't be more blessed or happy in my life. Now I'm looking forward to obviously getting back and getting out on touring again, but I don't think I will do as many as I used to do, only because I want to do more stuff like this with you, Jack, and people like you that are influencers and making a difference out there, that are so important, because we can reach a lot of people like this. You know, like when I go and speak at a school, I might do between 500 and a couple thousand kids at a time. You know, in some schools, they bust them all into arenas now. In like Texas, we do like 8,000 kids at a time. But when you have no idea how many people we can reach virtually through social media.
Yeah, like I remember there was I can't remember which interview it was. I think you were talking to Stone Cold Steve Austin, where I think you said that you managed to total up a bunch of the videos which you did very early on, which managed to reach above probably about 1 billion views, I think, online. So it just proves how quickly
it is crazy. It is, you know, it's funny because, you know, obviously speaking to a lot of my peers when I wrestled, like, you know, even talking to Hulk Hogan, I put the video up. You might have seen it. You know, we were just, me and him were just sitting there talking about things, and he would start telling me about a story about being bullied. I go, do you mind if I film this? And he goes, no, I'm not be glad to help. Now, who'd ever think Hulk Hogan was bullied as a kid, you know? And he shared the story about how he was overweight. And as a guy, he was so overweight, he had boobs. And when he'd run, they'd jiggle and kids would make fun of him, you know? And then look at me, became one of the most successful wrestlers ever.
Yeah, because I can imagine when, because I remember I showed it to, so I showed that video to a friend of mine who's also a wrestling fan, who just said, like, so have you seen this about like Hulk Hogan's like sort of bullying story? He said, it's Hulk Hogan. What would he have to be bullied about? I was just like, but you never know. You never know.
You never know, man.
Yeah, but like, if I can just backpedal just a little bit there, even I watched this some time ago, and when you spoke about like impacting others, like using sort of whatever power and whatever belief that you have within somebody else, even just having a conversation like this can reach so many, and even it can impact just the life of one person. So even sometimes when I'm talking to a camera and I maybe just be speaking to a screen, I could be speaking to somebody else who's sitting in their living room, who's maybe going through a tough time, and I may be benefiting them and I don't even know it. But then obviously you have some people which are benefiting other people's lives. Like I've seen like the incredible like story of like even DDP with Scott Hall and Jake the Snake Roberts. So when I saw the resurrection of Jake the Snake, I mean, man, if like believing in somebody, if that has a meaning, that has to be it. Seeing like the journey which they've gone down, like they're still on, hopefully still on a good path. But it just goes to show that even like relating back to like what you do and even what these influencers do online, that believing in somebody has a lot of power.
Yes, it does, you know, but you have no idea the power that you could give to them when they believe in themselves, you know. It starts off with you believing in them, and they goes, you believe in me? You believe in me? Then the transition is when you said, I believe in myself, you know. And it's such a great feeling, and we see so many people that have changed their life. And I think that's why Dallas and I are so close, you know, and gosh, I live near him now, so we get to hang out more often. And we just had a surprise birthday party for him a couple weeks ago. And then I go over and do his DDPY, the yoga. He's got me put my foot over my head now, you know, this crazy stuff. But, you know, it's like we inspire each other. And that's the best feeling. You know, Jack, we become who we surround ourselves with, you know.
Yeah.
You think about the people that you surround yourself with. If you're with a lot of negative people always talking about other people always telling you doom and gloom and, you know, everything sucks and this and that, you start believing that, you start becoming that. But when you're around some people, man, they're positive and upbeat and they have goals and dreams and they talk about doing good stuff, or you see them being kind to other people, you know, you can always like, whenever I see someone, how they treat an elderly person or a person in a grocery store or something, you know, it says a lot about them, you know. And I always want to walk away thinking I made that person's day, or I made them feel good about themselves, or just a simple thank you, or how you doing today, or a smile goes so far. People have no idea how far it goes, because you never know what someone's going through.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, even just going back from that, when you, like I was saying about, when you speak about this so often, even in your speeches as well, in your presentations, when you become who you surround yourself with, I firmly believe that's definitely true. I mean, I remember like going through, like being the age of 16 and discovering a lot of substances and things I shouldn't have been taken at that time, but it was right up until the age of probably about 21, I think, and I ended up getting in the wrong crowd. I was taking stuff I shouldn't have done, ruined a lot of relationships, ruined friendships, and ultimately, like, the person I felt like I kind of just let down more was myself. But I managed to seek help, get through that, and now I'm 25 years old and not touched anything since. So it just proves that you can achieve anything.
That is wonderful, Jack. And now you found that joy of helping other people, and seeing what you're doing now. It's such a blessing. And the great thing is you're doing this at such a young age. My last time I did drugs was 2003, so it's at 18 years clean now.
Yeah.
And it's a struggle when you first start. When you first want to make a difference, and you want to clean up your life and stuff, and you go through these valleys of life and depression and certain things. But when you start helping other people and you realize that your story makes a difference, and maybe listen to this, your current trial could be your future testimony. What you went through, Jack, and what I went through in my life, we can now share that. And the thing is, I really believe in going to a therapist too, but my stage has been my therapy. So every day I'm on that stage, it's like my therapy, because I can talk about exactly what I went through, what I felt, and then seeing the hundreds of letters that pour in after a presentation of students that were inspired by the event.
Well, when you do your presentations, it's just more, because I never even knew you did those presentations until years after, when obviously I've been a dedicated fan of professional wrestling ever since I can remember. And, always growing up with like sort of the Triple H's and so on, and watching Diamond Dallas Page and so on, Jake the Snake Roberts. I watched a lot of the 80s stuff. I wasn't even around back then, but that's the wrestling I loved, which inspired me to get into it. And I did train as a professional wrestler for a little while with LEP, which is Hero Wrestling, which was a small wrestling company down here. Man, like, I admire you for going through the rigors. I seriously do.
Well, what's kind of cool about also being not being able to travel right now, or when I say travel, with schools not opened up to do presentations, was I've been able to do some more of these wrestling events, where we're going and doing autograph signings and stuff. And we just had a celeb fest in Baltimore, and I got to see some of the boys I used to ride with, man. Seeing guys like Kevin Nash and Ron Simmons, and we had so much fun. I mean, it's great to see the fans, but when you reminisce about being on the road together and traveling and stuff, we just had such a good time, And then, of course, me and Kevin were on the same flight, because he had to fly. I believe he was flying to, I think it was Daytona, and I was going to Atlanta, but he had to stop over in Atlanta, so we're on the same plane together. So we really got to share. But walking down after you get off the plane, you walk through the airport. When you walk with Kevin Nash, he's a giant, okay? He's 7 feet tall. And people might not even remember him from wrestling, but everybody knows that he's somebody. And it's funny to walk with him, because all you see is people pointing and going, hey, who's that? Is that, So we had a great time.
Yeah. Because I remember seeing, I think it was on, I can't remember if it was on Real One, Enzo's Instagram, seeing when you met Enzo.
Yeah, I saw Enzo too. Yeah. And actually, that's the first time I got to meet Enzo, and I just I guess the camaraderie you have, whether you really know the person or just meet him, it's just this camaraderie you have, because we've all been through the rigors of the travel and the sleepless nights, the long hours, and everything else, wrestling day after day. Yeah,
but I suppose even all that time when you were on the road wrestling, and it kind of obviously if you're averaging all those dates, which I've got to know so many people in the business, I realize how hard they work and how much they travel. And it's not easy, especially if you have families and so on. But even throughout the time when you're wrestling, like there's even one part of your presentation, which I believe it's called what is it called? I think it was a Mother's Day message where you got like the horrible news. I'm sorry about like your mother in Japan. Like what happened with that?
Yeah, I was actually wrestling in Japan, and after a wrestling match, I went upstairs and fell asleep, and there was a knock at my door at 3:00 in the morning. So, you go up to the door and you like, who could be knocking at your door at this time? And I looked through the little safety window and I could see it was a Japanese promoter. So I thought something's up, and he said, Mark, you need to call home. There's been an emergency. So I immediately got on my phone. I called back to the United States. And that's when I heard the news that my mom passed on. And it was, Jack, to this day, when I share that story, it's so surreal because I remember it's almost like all the regrets come in right away. It's like, why didn't I talk to her? Why didn't I, my mom always, for years, I'd come home late at night, drunk and high, and she'd always sit up and wait for me to make sure I was still alive, and she'd always just want to talk to me. And I always blew her off, and that's the first thing that came to my mind when I heard the news that she died is like, all I wanted to do was talk to her, And I remember walking out after I heard the news. I took the elevator to the lobby and ran through the lobby, and I walked out it was Hiroshima, Japan. And I was just walking down the street. There was no cars. There was no people. It was 3:00 in the morning. And I remember just walking down that street, and all I could do was I just looked up and I screamed, I'm so sorry. And it was just so surreal, man. And then having to fly home for the funeral, I was able to, obviously get off tour and fly home. And man, just being so nervous to walk up to her casket, like standing way in the back. And there's so many people that came to see her and say goodbye. And it was just, it was just so hard, man, to finally walk up to her. And it was almost like, here's your nothing doing, son, and just felt so hopeless, helpless, and it was a time for a comeback though, and it's like the beginning of me changing my ways. And, and then who would ever think that 2 weeks later, my little brother would die, 21 years old, So 2 weeks in a row was like going through some of the hardest times of my life. But it also, it strengthens you too, because you take on that pain, and it's almost like, the old saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And it gives you the strength. And I use that strength for other people now that are going through the death of a loved one, whether it's their parents or spouse or kids or whatever it would be. We've seen so many kids die from suicide or drug overdose. And I meet the parents, and it's like, I'm so strong for them. Don't mean I don't cry with them and stuff, but man, I'm able to bring strength to them. And I think it's the gift I got from going through what I went through.
Well, I believe that through, obviously, my life already at the age of 25, I've lost friends, unfortunately, through accidents and through drugs and a few family members. And obviously, as you know, I'm going through something right now, which was really tested me. But at the same time, with everything that I've done in here, which is in spirituality, whatever you want to call it, faith, what have you, I firmly believe that it really doesn't matter where any of us go after we're done here on earth. I feel like somehow they know. Sometimes even a feeling is all you need, but especially, since you've gone through like your mother, your dad, unfortunately, your brother at such a young age, and your sister, and even a lot of friends in pro wrestling. So around that time, like a lot of guys were dying, especially very young at that time. Yeah. But now that you're at this point in your life where you're able to freely, I really admire you for being able to have that confidence, have that courage to freely speak about this to people, man, to speak about this to kids, where I can honestly believe at your presentations, there's not really ever a dry eye in the house. So I firmly see that, and I firmly believe that. But now at this point where you're much older and you've gone through these experiences, you're able to tell them to people. How do you feel mostly about your circumstances now?
Well, I always hope and pray that my heartbreak could be somebody else's wake up call. And I couldn't be, I guess the word, if you want to use the word, happier or more content in my life than I am right now, knowing I'm able to make a difference. I'm able to share stories, but I'm also able to listen. Listening is so important. Some
Yeah.
people you just need to share with you what they're going through. And sometimes people try to answer too quickly. Like let somebody talk. Let them get it off their chest or get it out from their heart or whatever it would be. And sometimes we're abrupt and we don't listen. And I've gotten better at that of listening to people and hearing what they're really saying. Why are they hurting so badly? Why can't they get over the death of a loved one? And I'll give you an example. I often think about that my mom would never want to see me depressed or constantly mourning. I mean, if she was here, she'd say, "Would you get on with your life?" You know, and I share that with people that their loved one, their mother or father or sibling or friend or whatever it would never. It would break their heart if they ever saw them hurting this bad. Don't get me wrong. There's a time for mourning. It's absolutely necessary, but there also is a time to get on with your life and be thankful that you had that person in your life. And I always tell people, man, life is so short. Invest in who's going to cry at your funeral. Who are the people that really care about you? Sometimes we spend so much time investing in people that don't even care. They don't even have nothing, just go on with their life. They're not necessarily good people. And I always try to be a light in someone else's darkness, a hope. And that's why I don't care. People say some nasty things about me. I mean, you just read stuff online or you see someone that isn't very kind to you, and I'm able to point, I don't care what people say about me. I'm not defined by someone else's opinion. We all have a past. You either run from it or you grow from it. And don't judge me by my past because I don't live there anymore.
Exactly. You don't live in the past anymore. The point is who you are today. The point is who you are today. So it's obviously we all got our past. We've all done things we are not proud of. We've all made our fair share of mistakes, things we regret. I wish I could have said this, or I wish I could have done this. But the point is, there is a chance for you to do something better down the line. There is a point for you to do something better. And relating back to, we're all going to lose loved ones and like family, whether it's friends, whatever. But you can either have that time to invest that time with the people which mean the most. So it's kind of like you said, we're investing in the people that truly love and who truly care about you. And you can either be so angry about this person maybe not being here on this earth anymore, or the way I think of it, I can look back on it and say, I had them. And I only think about the happy memories. I think about the good times. I think about the laughing. And that's what I really choose to remember. So I choose not to mourn people. I choose to more celebrate their lives and who they were. Like even I remember something which always really does makes me laugh in your presentations when you talk about when you used to play high school football and like your mum running along like along the sidelines cheering you on.
Yeah, that was it was quite embarrassing. My mom was very vocal, and I think about how mad I would get at her for yelling so loud at games or calling my name and stuff. It would get me. I mean, I'd really be physically angry at her. And I remember, I look back on that as I just realized how much she loved me. How much she adored me, how much she was rooting for me. And I just being so selfish and so caring about what other kids thought about me because my mom's running up and down the sideline screaming for me. And oh my gosh, it's like moments that you only wish you could relive, to feel that again and have a different attitude towards it. Like instead of saying when I make the joke that when I was in the huddle, the kids, the football players would say, "Mark, is that your mother?" And I would say, "I never saw her before in my life." Where now I'd say, "Man, absolutely, she loves me."
Oh, that is awesome. I always smile at that story. I really do love that. And obviously, like when we spoke about like your openness and being so honest about your life and all your struggles and your turmoils of everything that you've gone through, and then considering where you're at now, it's a pretty stark change. But was kind of the moment where you sort of decided, right, I really need to do something about my life. I need to move on from this point which I'm at. I think it was on a New Year's Day. I think you had probably your darkest moment in your life.
It was actually Christmas Day. It was Christmas Day. Yeah, that was the day I wanted to just be gone. End it all. I was just done, man. I was like, my ex-wife walked out on me financially, struggling financially, gonna have to sell my house now, everything I worked for. I was once a multi-millionaire and losing it all and making bad choices, a drug addict. It was a perfect storm. I just didn't want to be here anymore. And that's when I made the decision that I wanted to end it all. And Jack, every day I wake up, I actually look up and I thank God I didn't make that decision. And I tell people this that are going through suicidal thoughts or deep depression. I say the reason I say that I'm thankful. See, I never would have known all the beautiful things that were to come in my life if I would have ended it back in 2003. I think about that 18 years ago. Never would have known the purpose maybe God had in my life, the difference I've made in so many other people's lives, becoming successful again, working hard, cleaning myself up, feeling better than I've ever felt before. I never would have known that. And not only that, all the people it's like that were assigned in my life, new friends, new relationships, new romance, new everything, building those strong relationships with my other brother and my sister. We're so close now. I never would have had that or never would have realized that. So anyone out there that's struggling, man, you have no idea the great things that are ahead of you. You have to believe that the rest of your life will be the best of your life. The best chapters are about to be written. I truly believe that.
Yeah, do something today that your future self will be proud of later on.
I heard that somewhere before.
Yeah, you have. It's from me. Yeah. So obviously, around about that time. So I know you talk about this a lot. Was that really when, regardless whether anybody watching this believes in any kind of faith, belief system, whatever, was it really that point where you decided to sort of give your life to Christ and really live your life in a good way? Why is it so important that you feel to talk about God and so much in your presentations?
Well, Jack, the reason it was a very pivotal moment in my life. I was brought up Jewish, and my parents got divorced. My mom, we were going to a really rough school, so she wanted us to go to a safer school, which was a Catholic school, and that's the first time I ever heard the word Jesus. But just doing my own thing my whole life. And it wasn't until later on in life that I decided that I wanted to be a Christian and give my life to Christ and accept him as Lord and Savior. But it was that Christmas Day when I really got on my knees after putting a gun to my head. I got on my knees and I just begged God to forgive me. Please do something with my life. I didn't even know what I was going to do. And don't take this the wrong way, but I became, I was so desperate. I didn't know what to do. I became a personal trainer at Gold's Gym. And it was so, I guess it was humbling because people would come into Gold's Gym and they'd say, oh my gosh, Marc Mero, what are you doing here? And I said, well, I work here. They go, you work at Gold's Gym? And it was very humbling, but I realized, that was part of my journey, was my comeback. You can't have a comeback without a setback.
Yeah.
I had this setback of trying to make it over again. But Jack, my clients were getting such great results, and I was able to save enough money where I was able to open my own gym. And then that did really well. And I had trainers working for me, and it was just an amazing opportunity. And then I got the phone call, like I told you, it was to come and speak to a school. And that's when my journey started as a inspirational speaker. And then my life was completely turned around and it just went back to being this amazing journey that I just don't want to end.
No. Well, obviously like we've gone this, obviously we've gone this far. I appreciate like all the time which like you've given to me, and it's been such a great opportunity to actually finally speak after all this time. But obviously, from where you're at in your life now, you've come so far. Would you change anything?
You know, I often say this, Jack, that, all the paths I took, good and bad, they led me to where I am today. And I don't have regrets, I mean, sure, there's things in life you wish you didn't do or whatever, or especially hurting other people, but all those different paths led to right where I am today. And like I said earlier, I couldn't be more content in my life and more proud of the person I am today. I'm proud of who's looking back at me in the mirror every day. And that's a journey that I took, and I believe it's going to get better and better. I really do. I know we're in some difficult times now, and we're seeing a lot of division in the world today. But it takes people like you and I, and people that just care about other people, that have love in their heart. Love is the most powerful gift you can give somebody. Remember, I even say my thing: it's not what's in your pocket that matters; it's what's in your heart that truly matters. And you have to ask yourself, what is in your heart today?
Yep. And what is in my heart, what's in my head right now is that eventually, for the whole journey that you've had, I really say that eventually I want to see Marc Mero in the WWE Hall of Fame.
Well, unfortunately, I don't have the best relationship with the WWE anymore, because I spoke out against them many years ago. But maybe speaking out has maybe changed or saved a lot of wrestlers' lives, because now anyone that's ever been in a WWE ring gets free rehab. And if they go through drug or alcohol, it's because of many of us speaking out. They now have the strictest drug testing. We very seldom see wrestlers dying of drug overdoses now. So maybe those changes happen because people like myself and some others stood up and spoke out. But at the expense, I don't know if I'd ever be invited to be at a wrestling event again. But like I said, I'm not defined by the WWE in my life. And I couldn't be happier or more proud of what I do. And how cool would it have been if we could have worked together with a school program that the WWE would sponsor and utilize many of the wrestlers to help younger people. I know they have some programs, but it's more about kind of a rah thing where they come out and the kids are going crazy, but it's not really delivering a message that's changing lives.
Well, that's why I like your presentation, so unfiltered. But then again, there's a popular quote, which I can't remember if it was Enzo or More who came up with it, but it's a very important quote, which says, "May the bridges that you burn light the way."
That's true. That's true. And hopefully, and like I said, I have no bitterness or resentment or forgiveness to anybody. I have no animosity. That's not my call.
Life's too short, man.
Yeah, it really is. And but Jack, I just want to say I am so blessed to have met you. You and I have had some private conversations and letters back and forth, and I'm so proud of the man you have become and the difference you are making in this world. And I know you go through some things too. We all do, that you're not alone, buddy. And I just say, stay strong, because that light is shining bright and you're going to change many, many people. Take care, my friend.
Yeah, thank you. And also another thing, like just before we shoot off, is that for obviously around that time, around when I was 21 years old, and I was really struggling with when I was going through a whole suicide attempt. Now, something which I actually finally get to say is, if I hadn't have found that, I'm not sure where I'd be today. So, Marc, honestly, thank you so much for listening for all this time. I have shared some private things with you, and honestly, thank you so much.
No, Jack, friends for life, my buddy. We look forward to doing this again sometime. And you know what? We are discussing a tour to the UK. We have not set a date yet, but we are in discussion. We had a conference call last week, and things we hope are going to be moving forward. I mean, obviously, we got to get things opened up again.
Yeah.
But if I do, I would love to meet you in person.
Absolutely not a problem. Like, you know where I'll be. I'm on the other end of a phone.
Okay, brother. God bless you, and God bless your listeners. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Thanks to everybody. Thank you, guys. Thanks.